Good evening and welcome to the June 1st Council meeting. If you'd please stand, I'm going to ask Councilman Flores to lead us in the flag salute.
Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and you may be seated. Our first ceremonial presentation is recognition of the California Park and Recreation Society 2019 and 2020 Community Champion Award recipients. The California Park and Recreation Society, or CPRS, District 11 Community Champion Award is given to individuals to recognize their outstanding contributions to the Chino community and to parks and recreation. Contributions may be as a commissioner or council member, a volunteer in community services programs, or as a participant of a social, cultural service, or fraternity organization. Normally, they are recognized at a banquet, but due to COVID-19, the banquets were not held. So we would like to proudly recognize them here this evening. Our first champion for 2019 is Andrea Moss. Andrea, would you like to come up, please? Bring your family if you like. Come on up. Andrea Moss was a senior at Don Lugo High School last year. She volunteered with the Teen Opportunity Program, or TOP, for 6 years and was member of the Teen Advisory Committee, or TAC, for 4 years. As a member of TAC, she served as the secretary and chairperson. When Andrea was not volunteering with the city of Chino, she was working with her church, St. Margaret Mary, Isaiah's Rock, You Choose, and her brother's Boy Scout troop. Andrea put in approximately 620 volunteer hours throughout her high school career across all agencies. She is now a student at Cal Poly Pomona and continues to volunteer her time. Do we have something for her? Here's a beautiful little plaque. It's a plaque that reads the District 11 CPRS Community Champion, presented to Andrea Moss in recognition of your outstanding contributions to the California Park and Recreation Society District 11 2020. Would you like to say it?
I'd just like to say thank you to everyone that's helped me on this journey. It first started off as my mom telling me, you have to go volunteer. And it just turned into me wanting to volunteer, and I've loved it ever since. I like helping everyone and just being part of the community. I love being in this city and working for it, and I hope to be wearing green soon, so I'm waiting for that, but thank you, everyone. This is my mom. I'm like the one that got me involved. She's always been keeping me involved with the city, so I'm very thankful for her. If not, I would not be here. But thank you, Mom. Thank you.
Just stay involved. Okay. Our next is Richard and Lisa Montego. Hi. Known them for a long time. Did you bring any other family members with you? Have her come up. Come on. Oh, come on up. Come on. Pastor Moses and Vanjie. Richard and Lisa have been advocates for the City of Chino programs for many years. Over 10 years ago, at the request of Police Chief Pruitt, Richard and Lisa started the nonprofit You Choose as a way for Chino's police officers to serve the children of the downtown neighborhoods. The goal is to develop relationships with local youth, encourage their interest, and help them make positive choices. Officers help with homework, provide guidance, and encourage participation in sports and other recreation activities. Together, they participate in several events each year, including National Night Out, a backpack and school supply giveaway, and a Christmas party. Richard has also coached youth basketball with the City of Chino for the last 8 years. Every year, Richard and Lisa go above and beyond for the children of Chino. Let's give them a big hand. Who wants to speak?
I want to thank this wonderful city. I love this city. I remember years ago telling my grandpa and grandma, thank you for settling in Chino because they had a business here for many years and always had a heart to give, and my parents have always had a heart to give back to this community, and we just followed in really good footsteps, I think.
You absolutely did.
Yes.
Did. When I introduce everyone.
Our daughter, Olivia. We have a son, Elijah, too, but he's busy with basketball. My son, Richard, of course, my mom, Vanjie, and my dad, Pastor Moses, and Vanjie.
Very good. We also have a plaque for you, and it reads, CPRS District 11 Community Champion, presented to Richard and Lisa Montego in recognition of your outstanding contributions to the California Park and Recreation Society District 11, 2020.
Thank you.
Thank you.
She'll get a picture.
I'm happy to see you all there.
She's going to get a picture.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, next, 2020 Community Champion Recipient Award, Jim Espinoza. I'd like to call up his wife, Barbara, and his daughter. Come on, and your daughter. Hi, sweetie. I'm good. How are you? Jim passed away recently. Jim was a longtime resident of Chino and served his community well. He was appointed to the Community Services Commission for 11 years, a member of the Chino Valley Lions Club for over 16 years, elected to the Chino Valley Fire Board for 16 years, and volunteered for the Chino Boxing Foundation for 9 years. Jim took great pride in fundraising for eyeglasses and vision initiatives as a member of the Lions Club. He was very active in their fundraising efforts for selling Christmas trees and then selling soft-serve ice cream at events all over the Chino Valley. As a community services commissioner, he worked to ensure that Chino was a community you would be proud to raise your children or conduct business. He was a big advocate of the benefits and values of parks and recreation. He embodied the values of respect, integrity, and excellence. Sadly, Jim passed away earlier this year, but his spirit and his contributions are not forgotten. Either one of you would like to speak?
My mom and I would just like to say thank you to the city of Chino. My dad loved volunteering every way he can. He's always been involved with the city of Chino. So we just want to say thank you very much for picking him for this award.
And we have this similar type plaque that reads, it's presented to Jim in recognition of your outstanding contribution to the California Park and Recreation Society District 11. We're going to miss him, Barbara. I know. A lot, and I know you do too. Thank you so much for being here this evening. Bye-bye. Oops, forgot. Photo.
Love you, Barbara.
Yeah, you can. Oh, she want to take it again without her mask.
Sorry. Thank you.
Okay, and our next recipient, Charlene King. Charlene, you want to come up, bring your family? You want to bring anybody else up? Yeah, come on up. Come on. Come on. Charlene has a massive extended family. Oops, there she goes. Charlene and her late husband, David, founded Isaiah's Rock almost 30 years ago, but she's been feeding the hungry for 35 years. The nonprofit mission distributes groceries weekly to over 500 families, provides cooked meals every day for those in need of breakfast, lunch, or dinner, and hosts Thanksgiving and Christmas giveaways for approximately 2,000 families each year. Charlene brings together resources and volunteers to fulfill their mission year-round. No one is turned away and no one is judged. When the COVID-19 pandemic hit, she worked with the city to relocate their food distribution to the Civic Center to accommodate a drive-through pickup. The weekly numbers increased to over 700 families, and cars line up as early as 6 a.m. for the 10 a.m. distribution. Charlene believes if you have food on your table, there's no reason for your neighbor to go hungry. She continues to be a champion in the community through the hardest of times and is a true blessing to the Chino community. Say a few words and introduce your extended family.
Thank you, Mayor Eunice, City Council, staff, everybody, thank you so very much. Linda, we love all of you. This is my granddaughter, Fiona, and this is granddaughter from another daughter that's not here. This is, I'm going to pass you for a minute. This is a granddaughter. This girl's like a granddaughter. And this is her dad, who is Pastor Damien, and he helps with Isaiah's Rock a lot. We couldn't do it without him sometimes. And then I'm going to introduce these two. This is Linda, and this is Nacho. And I just like to say that probably 32, 33 years ago, this was the first lady I met when I got in the little blue house, and we shared some food, and I gave her some food, and I didn't speak Spanish, she didn't speak English, we talked in sign language, and we drew pictures. But I'd like to say there are 65 members of her family in Chino now. They're all legal citizens, they've all gone to the local high schools, they all have jobs in Chino. And her mom, 85 years old, just got her citizenship, the last one. So I'm very proud of the first family in Chino.
Okay, we also have a similar plaque for you, same in recognition of your outstanding contribution to California Park and Recreation Society District 11. Thank you. You have to get a picture. Okay, next, I'd like to call up our Chief Wes Simmons. He's going to introduce some new officers, or promotions rather, not new. Okay.
Thank you very much, Mayor, for this opportunity to introduce our newest promotees. Can you gentlemen come on up here? Right here. So first I'd like to introduce Corporal Reggie Barber. So Reggie, well, let me start off by saying these three gentlemen up here represent 55 years of combined law enforcement experience. And I'll introduce them in a second, and we have one of our newest police officers in the back right there, Brianna Murillo, who joined us less than 30 days ago. So, from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, thank you very much. So, Corporal Reggie Barber started his law enforcement career 15 years ago. He lateraled from the San Bernardino County Sheriff's to the Chino Police Department in 2006. And he's been a motor officer and a school resource officer. And he's worked at Chino High School, Buena Vista High School, and Don Lugo High School. He's got quite a following out there. And he's, as of Monday, a patrol corporal, and he's doing a great job. And a field training officer, and that's his trainee right there. Yep. We've got Sergeant Steve Beckman. So Sergeant Steve Beckman has 12 years of law enforcement experience, 2 at the Colton Police Department before transferring to the Chino Police Department in 2011. He's worked in the gang unit. He's worked as a canine officer and most recently as a detective. And as of Monday, he is one of our patrol sergeants. And next to him is Lieutenant Mark Layton. Mark Layton started over 30 years ago here at the Chino Police Department at 18 years of age as a police cadet. He then went on to be a reserve police officer, and we hired him as a full-time police officer in 1993. He's been a corporal, a sergeant. He's worked in our detective bureau, our traffic unit, and he's been involved with our field training program since probably most of that years as a police officer, and just does a phenomenal job. And I'm very excited to promote all three of these and introduce them to the community and you.
Fantastic. One of the very special things about our police department is that the officers stay so long, so you know this community. You know it inside and out. When you're driving around, what amazes me, I've gone on a ride-along before, driving down the street, and the officer that I was with went, "That car's out of place." I said, "What do you mean it's out of place? It doesn't belong here." I mean, they know our community, so they know when things don't look right, right? You just know. It's like an instinct. And we benefit from that. We really do. Thank you all very much for your service. Thank you, Wes. Thank you. Congratulations. Next, we have the Business of the Month Award for June. Chino's Business of the Month program was designed so that our city leaders could honor all city businesses. Because Chino truly is a community, it becomes challenging to single out just one business to celebrate. The applications we have received describe businesses that not only provide a product or service, but also gives back to the community. Good businesses understand that it's not just what you can get out of a city through customers and sales, but how you can partner with that community to make it more successful. This theme is consistent with those vying to be Chino's Business of the Month. For the month of June, we'd like to congratulate Kissin, our Business of the Month. I would like to call up an owner of Kissin, Tim Lee, and then he's brought some other people with him as well. So please join me up front. You want them to come up? Call them up. Come on. Clisson is a cleaning and disinfection product manufacturer who, through extensive research and development, has secured a number of patents and has exclusive rights to cleaning and disinfecting water technologies. During the course of the COVID-19 pandemic, Clisson donated nearly 500,000 masks and hand sanitizers to first responders in the region, including the Chino Police Department. As a community member, Clisson has made a concerted effort to source materials and services from companies in Chino and the surrounding area. This was a major factor in the business's decision to invest in Chino. Let's congratulate Clisson for providing excellent products and for giving back to our city. Please accept this plaque as a symbol of our appreciation.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And it reads, "Congratulations to Clisson, June 2021 Chino Business of the Month. The City of Chino thanks you for being a part of the Chino community." And it's presented this day from the Mayor and the City Council of Chino. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. She wants to get a picture too. Oh, you want your banner?
Yeah.
They brought their own banner. Get it? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
for all you've done
you.
for us, too.
Thank you.
Thank you very much
My
for your
pleasure.
donations.
Thank you.
Oh, sure.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, this is my business card.
Oh,
Please.
okay.
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 Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Okay, what's next? Okay, next we have the Mayor's Home Beautification Award for June. I'd like to call up Tara Quintanara of 12400 Cypress Avenue, space number 19. Hi. And we have a certificate for you, Mayor's Home Beautification Award. Thank you for the continuing improvement and maintenance of your home, resulting in a substantial contribution to the overall appearance of our community. And then we have a picture of your beautiful mobile home. And we have a pen and pencil set, all kinds of goodies. And a lapel pen. And we have the coveted yard sale. Okay. So tell us a little bit about how you keep it so nice.
Gosh. Well, I was surprised to get this award. First of all, I didn't know they considered mobile homes in this, so thank you. My daughter helped with the maintenance and replacing the lawn in the front, and that's about it.
Well,
Just
thank you very much
thank
for your
you.
contribution to our community.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
It was a nice surprise.
Yeah, sure. Come on up. Want to introduce her?
This is my daughter, Selena Malinowski.
Hi, Selena.
She came all the way up from San Bernardino to be here today.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank
You're
you so
welcome.
much.
You're welcome.
You got that one. It's
Thanks
heavy.
for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, that's it. Okay, we did have a closed session prior to our council meeting. I'd like to ask our city attorney, Fred Galante, to provide us a report.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council, and those in attendance. The city council met in closed session as referenced by the mayor and discussed the sole item on the closed session agenda, namely conference with legal counsel, one item of anticipated litigation under the heading initiation of litigation. The city council received a briefing to that potential litigation matter, and no further reportable action was taken. That concludes the report out of closed session.
Okay, thank you. I'd also like to note that we are missing one council member. That's Councilmember Comstock. She is not with us this evening. Mr. Ballantyne, do we have any agenda additions or revisions?
Yes, I have two items. First, I'm requesting that item number 15, which pertains to Economic Development Revenue Sharing Agreement, be moved from new business to consent calendar. This was inadvertently placed on the agenda under new business, so I just asked that item number 15 be placed on consent.
Okay.
Secondly, I want to introduce the Civic Center item, which is under presentations. And so I'd like to invite Vivian Castro, our Deputy City Manager, to make that presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Ulloa, council members, staff, and members of the public. I'm Vivian Castro, and we're going to be receiving an update today on the Civic Center Master Plan. In May of 2019, the City Council, as part of its strategic plan workshop, discussed and provided staff direction on a number of critical issues. Among these issues was an assessment of the Civic Center. The council requested that we assess the facilities, look at existing and future capacity, and future needs. As part of the effort, Gruen and Associates was awarded the contract in December of 2019. They did get immediately to work assessing the facilities, taking stakeholder input, but COVID hit. We decided to go ahead and pause the project to ensure that we would be able to have a robust community engagement process and to also be able to incorporate into our Civic Center Master Plan lessons learned from the pandemic, as it did require a significant shift in our operations. So with that, we have two members of the Gruen team in person today to provide us an update on the project, provide us a status and next steps, as well as a timeline. And three members of the team will be joining us and providing us information remotely. So with that, I'd like to introduce Larry Schlossberg from Gruen and Associates and Orlando Gonzalez.
Thank you, Vivian. Mind if I take this off so I could breathe while we do this?
Definitely.
Thank you for having us here today. First, I'm going to introduce the project team, and we should advance that, Orlando. No?
Technical difficulties.
Technology will be an important part of the master plan.
It's the only trouble with all this electronic stuff is things always seem to go haywire.
Okay. It's like when, I started working when we drew by hand, right, not on the computer. And,
Blueprints, right?
right. I always tell people that
Yeah.
I never picked up my eraser to erase a line and accidentally erased the whole drawing.
True.
Like happens on the computer sometimes.
Yes, it does.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. All right, great. So I'll tell you about our team. I'm up there in the top corner. And I'm a partner at Grew & Associates. We have 4 partners. Been there for about 34 years now. And I'm the partner in charge of this project and the project manager and project architect. However, those are just titles. The real work is being done by Orlando Gonzalez, who is next to me as the assistant project manager and a senior planner in our office. And then Camille Parks, who isn't here today. She's back at the office because she never leaves. She's doing much of the detailed work. And then consultants to Gruen to fill out the comprehensive team. Bill Lee from Land Econ Group, who will be, or has been, and will continue to work on the financial strategy for the redevelopment of the Civic Center. Mike Parkland from Leland Saylor Associates will be doing cost estimates, obviously an important element to feed into the financial strategy. And Leslie Scott from Leslie Scott Consulting is an expert in community engagement and community outreach, and she's been very, very involved. Go ahead. Okay, so a little bit of project background, just to remind everybody of things. This has been going on for some time, but the basic goals is to develop a comprehensive Civic Center master plan with clarity, a clear vision, an action plan on how to implement it, a financial strategy, and a timeline, a schedule. Of course, very importantly, is meeting the city's administrative and operational needs at build-out. And as important is meeting the needs of the Chino community. The existing Civic Center that we're in right now was completed in the 1970s. So it's about 50 years old, or very close to 50 years old. In the area, including this block and some other blocks we'll see in a second, there's a little more than 15 acres in downtown Chino that are owned by the city, so they're public lands. That's the focus of what we're working on. But also there's the Public Works Service Center a little bit to the south of us, which is on another 7 acres, and we're looking at that as well. Can you go ahead? So I'm not going to go through all of these facilities, but in that aerial photo, you see in the upper portion of it, the yellow areas are the city-owned land, the block that we are standing on. The block to the east, across Central, well, not the entire block, but much of it. And then the block to the north, and a little bit more to the north near the Children's Museum and such. And then the big parcels in the south, which are the Public Works yard. Go ahead, please. A little bit focused in the downtown portion of the city holdings. Lots of activities going on here, including, in addition to the city hall, right, we have across the courtyard from us the currently vacant former courthouse and the currently almost entirely vacant police station, the old police station. Across Central, of course, the old fire station and a community services facility. We have the sort of entertainment portions, right? The 7th Street Theater to the north, and the library, and the senior center, and there's the transit center to the west. So this is the area that we're focusing on. However, we also think we're going to be making let's call them recommendations for some areas that are not necessarily city-owned, because we see the Civic Center as being a vibrant neighborhood, and we'd like to introduce retail, maybe some more housing and such, and so we will be looking at ways to revitalize the entire neighborhood, which will feed into the success of the Civic Center. Go ahead. Okay, back in 2019, the City Council gave direction to keep the Civic Center in downtown Chino, and several alternatives were discussed to renovate the existing building that we're in now, build a new City Hall in the Civic Center, or more specifically on this block, and construct a new City Hall at the vacant fire station and family services site across the street. And these will essentially form the basis for 3 preliminary alternatives that we are actually currently working on and will continue to work on. You know, under consideration in sort of determining which alternative to proceed with, of course, are the costs of the various options, and sometimes that turns out to be surprising, which one might be more expensive. The age and condition of the buildings, operational and functional issues, of course, aesthetics and urban design, and the maintenance costs, particularly with older buildings if they are kept, and the current and projected community and city programming needs, which is something that we are wrapping up currently. Go ahead, please. So 3 basic phases to the development of the Civic Center Master Plan. Phase 1 was studying the existing conditions, reading reports, familiarizing ourselves with the buildings, touring all the buildings or existing buildings, and putting together a memorandum of what the preliminary or what the existing conditions are like, and what current plans for the Civic Center area are like. Phase 2, which we are in now, is developing several alternatives based on needs assessments that actually have been going on for some time. We had a, as you know, a big break when COVID hit, and actually those needs changed during the pause. So we're revisiting that somewhat and refining that. So phase 2, the result will be the 3 concept plans, and then phase 3, completion of the master plan by selecting a approach, studying cost and financing options, all leading into a preferred plan and a final report. So project background and scope sort of continued. As we're formulating a vision of the Civic Center, we wanted to define the Civic Center's role in the community. There's been lots of discussion about that. And of course, understanding recommendations of the programming and design alternatives, lots of work with that, and we're even continuing now working on the programming. And also very importantly, we want to not just look, as I mentioned, not just look at the properties owned by the city, but we want to support the vitality of downtown Chino and recreate what it once was and make it even better. So it's a real heart of the city, a real downtown. So the goal is to develop a conceptual plan and long-term site development plan. And moving forward, we will move into detailed design, funding strategies, phasing, and ultimately construction. So stakeholder input has been a very important part of our process. We have conducted numerous interviews, I would say dozens, with City Council. We met with the mayor and others, with the city's, all the department heads and numerous staff, many public sector stakeholders, including Historical Society, youth sports leagues, parks and rec people. As a matter of fact, we sort of tagged along with the Parks and Recs master plan and attended their interviews as well to see what we can glean. That was very helpful. And the nonprofits and community groups. Then the stakeholder comments that sort of formed a consensus on many issues. You know, a council chamber somewhat bigger than where we are now to accommodate up to 150 or more. Integration of technology into the facilities. That's a big issue, as we saw a few minutes ago. Central file storage for all departments. Storage is all over the place in the city. Many of the storage needs for city departments are handled at the police station now, and we'd like to centralize that and make it more accessible for all the departments. There's a need for additional conference rooms and equipment storage. Additional shared spaces like training rooms and such. There needs to be a look at safety of the clerical areas off of the lobby, and the customer service and kiosk at the front lobby, and employee amenities, which are missing now. A nice eating area, right, outside spaces, and finally a police substation in the Civic Center. There is no argument about any of these things. Move ahead. So also, stakeholders agree that we need to replace outdated and aging civic buildings or very heavily renovate them and add on to them. And there's a consensus to reflect Chino's agricultural history in the Civic Center design and its character, particularly the dairy sector. Everyone agreed that the Civic Center should be a destination where people want to come not only because they have business to do at City Hall, but make a downtown which is walkable and connectable and accessible, a gathering place, which it is somewhat now with all the events that happen on the lawns outside, but reinforce that. And pedestrian scale and a Main Street kind of atmosphere, which will really make a heart of the city, both daytime and nighttime activity, and for all age groups. This will, of course, benefit local businesses and increase transit ridership, helps deter crime, and promotes pride in the city, pride for the entire city, not just the immediate area. There's been lots of talk about a performing arts facility, and we want to find a good place for that. And perhaps re-envisioning the transit center, more public parking, which is important particularly for all the events that happen, and reinforce the athletics tradition. Lots of youth athletics go on in the city. You go ahead. So, we have looked into the history of the fabric of downtown Chino, what it once was, and perhaps returning it to more of that character, including the public spaces and connections, and make it integrated and cohesive. We want to anchor the continued revitalization of downtown. There might even be surplus city-owned sites that could be useful for private development, integrated with retail access for business and residents, and importantly, inspire civic pride and identity. Very importantly, the Civic Center needs to be the center of Chino, or the focus of Chino, serving the entire city. And it's a spread out city, so we want everyone to feel that they are welcome and can enjoy the Civic Center. You move ahead. So we have reviewed the capital improvement plans, the previous done plans, the general plan, the parks and rec facilities master plan, which is underway. Previous master plan, market studies, that's how we started. Then we prepared programmatic evaluation memorandum, which were based on department interviews and stakeholder interviews. That's essentially finding what are the needs, what are the largely the functional needs of all the departments and other uses in the city. And we've visited all the buildings and reviewed all the as-built plans, and prepared assessments of the vacant facilities and prioritization of services and service projections, looking ahead at how all the departments and such may grow. Ahead, please. Yes, Leslie, are you with us?
I am, Larry. Thank you very much.
Take it away.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the community and some of the vision that we'd like to have for this project. And as Larry said, we've done some stakeholder one-on-one interviews. We've had technical advisory committee, and now is the time for us to engage the public. So as we go out and get public opinion, we will be holding workshops as well as pop-up events, and we will get the word out about the Civic Center Master Plan through a project website as well as social media and Channel 3. In addition to that, we're modeling some of the things that were successful for the Parks Master Plan, and that is adding a statistically significant community survey. So we'll also be doing a mailing survey as well as an online survey. So that, again, will give us a better idea of what the public would like to see. And like Larry said, we've already got a sense of the civic pride and really this whole gathering place feeling of the Civic Center. So just really happy to be involved with the community input. So I'll give it back to Larry and Orlando.
Thank you, Leslie. Orlando Gonzalez here, the Assistant Project Manager. Yeah, if you can move on to the next slide. And so I'll briefly talk to you for the next two slides on the project approach for the design alternatives. And so right now we are going through a parallel effort with wrapping up some of the programmatic inventories and projected needs, as Larry had mentioned. And in a parallel effort, primarily from the stakeholder input that we have received, which was significant, we have begun the process of evaluating design alternatives. And in these design alternatives, we're looking at three conceptual plans that will take into account not only building issues, but also urban design issues such as pedestrian and vehicular connection and connectivity throughout the Civic Center. So kind of those larger, broader urban design issues, including traffic, transportation and parking, and so forth. And all of the design criteria for these conceptual plans will be based on assumptions that we are developing as we speak. And these assumptions include phasing implications, cost estimates, traffic and parking impacts, financial strategies, open space and placemaking. So all these are categorized into a matrix that that will help us evaluate what these priorities are in evaluating the conceptual plans. Next. And lastly, in this effort, after all that input is taken in, especially with feedback from you all, the council members, the community, city staff, and so forth, we will choose with you all a preferred plan. And through plans, renderings, and narratives, we will articulate this preferred plan and the vision of the city, its goals and objectives. And this preferred plan is meant, the intent of it is meant to, project that overall vision of the city, of the community and city administration needs. And it will be used as a tool for communicating public and funding bodies and for use from the design team to establish a project framework and structure that will set up the final master plan. And with that, hopefully help build a coalition of supporters. Next. And with that, I will pass it along to Mike Parkin, our cost estimator, to talk about this slide.
Yeah, thank you, Orlando. Good evening, everyone. Cost is an important factor in deciding on a preferred master plan. And for each of the three potential solutions that Larry and Orlando have mentioned, we will develop a high-level assessment of likely costs using data from other projects in our experience. And then once that preferred option is selected from the three, we can refine those initial estimates for the new buildings that are envisioned, modernization of existing buildings, civil work, site work. But of course, the actual construction will still be in the future. So we carry also appropriate escalation allowances, tapping intelligence from our market research group in-house. So the final master plan will include costs that have been reviewed by the team before publishing. And I just have to say, I'm so excited to be part of this amazing initiative for Chino, and thank you for including us. And now to talk about funding those costs, I'm going to hand over to Bill, or Orlando will. Thank you.
Bill, are you with us?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Move on to the next slide, please.
Do you want to go to the next slide, please?
The next slide, please. Thank you very much.
Yes, in developing a funding strategy while Gruen and Leslie and the other team members are doing their work, we're first looking at city real estate. Should any of it become surplus, we may be able to use it, the disposition of that real estate to help fund the project. More importantly, we're looking at the experience of other California cities. We found 6 cities that may be representative of Chino. 3 are in Northern California, 3 are in Southern California that have recently built civic centers. They are Newark, La Habra, South San Francisco, Lake Forest, Temecula, and Elk Grove. And the average population of these cities is almost identical to that of Chino, and the general fund revenue per capita of these cities is slightly lower than Chino. So I think they're good comps. Overall, these cities spent about $78 million for their civic center, and their per square foot cost was about $1,000, slightly over $1,000 a square foot. They raised revenue in various ways. A couple of them passed sales tax initiatives, half-cent increase before the pandemic hit. Cities that tend to grow faster use development fees and then combinations of other funds to do it. So once we better understand the program and the costs and the politics of your city, we'll give you some options for you to select how to proceed financially. I'll turn it back to Orlando.
Thank you so much, Bill. And with that, we'll go on to the next slide.
Okay, so I think this is the last slide. So our next steps, and actually we're working on some of this right now, is to finalize a programmatic memorandum, really nailing down the facilities and the space needs of Chino 10 to 15 years from now. The outreach program is really getting on the way. As Leslie spoke about, the live version of the website is ready for launch, pending some final comments from the city. And the community survey is being prepared, and we're getting ready for a pop-up event where people can come by and talk to us and tell us what's important to them. We are working on the design alternatives. We actually don't want to finalize those, certainly until we get some input from the surveys and the pop-up events and such. So we're holding back designing too much so as not to get ahead of ourselves, and incorporate the city comments to inform a preferred alternative. And then finally, finalizing the funding strategies report and the evaluated out-of-project pause and recommendations made by strategies to reevaluate the out-of-project pause and recommendations made for the city selection. And with that, we'd be happy to address any questions or comments you may have.
Okay, I do have some questions. This is a really good 30,000-foot view, but I have a tendency to kind of be down in the weeds sometimes, the details. So I'm curious, you did talk about our Civic Center needs for City Hall and our staff and our needs, but there are other uses on our city property that are very important also that we need to incorporate in this, like the senior center, the library,
Yes.
you know, all of that. And so you mentioned 3 alternatives. Is there a way to not have to go through all 3 alternatives and spend all of the time refining all 3? Can there be a way that we try to get down to the major one that the council and staff supports rather than have you spend all that time on 3 separate alternatives?
Yeah, I think it could be streamlined somewhat. You mentioned the other facilities besides City Hall, and I presume you're speaking about the library and the senior center and those kind of things. And it's generally agreed that the master plan should incorporate expansion of those facilities. And there's not likely to be 3 alternatives for how to expand those facilities, right? So much of the study outside of the block that we're on will not vary much from concept to concept. So we don't need to spend a lot of time on those issues, but make sure that they're covered. And we can perhaps focus a little bit more on the city facilities, for which there are numerous options for how they can develop.
Well, I really want to see our council involved as you move forward instead of waiting for the final report.
Yes.
Because I think we're all pretty interested in maintaining and revitalizing, obviously, downtown, but also maintaining the critical draw, the library, the senior center, the youth museum, you know, all of that has to be part of this. It can't be just City Hall. So I'm just concerned because those other uses weren't mentioned. So I just, you know, I'm looking for reassurance that as we move forward, we're not going to spend a lot of time on a plan that does not include those kinds of facilities.
Thank you, Mayor. All of those components are part of that programmatic evaluation that they've been discussing. So it's not just the programs of the city and the city activities, but also all those related uses that take place here. So the library, and that's why we've also, part of the stakeholder outreach is to these other public agencies that share these facilities. So we've also, you know, they've had many conversations with the county. The senior center is part of that. All of the other activities that happen on City Hall. So the stakeholder group is very broad. The more complicated component is figuring out the city space needs. So that's why a lot of the conversation has focused on that, because it also involves projections. So the next step, and the reason why the 3 conceptual plans are important, they will probably have the same major facilities as Larry was mentioning, a senior center, you know, the library, obviously the city hall.
Yeah, we want to be comparing
apples to apples. So they'll have the similar facilities, but just the layout may be different, how things are handled. It could be, you know, that City Hall is across the street. So all of those components that are critical to the activities that take place now are being considered. The fact that our lawn is such an important part of what happens here is also being considered as part of the project.
Can we be provided kind of a punch list on the kinds of amenities that you are considering to be part of this big plan? I'd feel a lot more comfortable if I could see that, I know.
And that's part of the programmatic evaluation.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Any comments from council members?
No, I mean, I think this is not only important to everybody here on the council, but I can tell you last week when I was at Home Depot, I was approached by one of the residents, and he was talking about how he thinks that the city is missing the whole downtown feel. And he used, for example, that the city of Azusa as a downtown area, and it's very successful. Even mentioned that they had a theater there that, I guess the upstairs was an area where people could have drinks before the actual show started, and he said, you know, how can a city like Azusa have this, and us here in Chino, we're missing the whole boat, and we don't have something like that. So I definitely think, obviously, it's a great idea to have the community involved. He's a big advocate for a performing arts center. So I know that there's going to be some people that are advocating that, and I think there's different things that the city's looking at. One is an indoor-outdoor, and some people just want the indoor. But I definitely think, you know, we need to have our set amenities, but I think we need to obviously look at some restaurants here and something to bring people here, similar to what Claremont does and some of these other cities that, like Temecula, right off the freeway, they have a great downtown area. So I think it's something that we are really in need for, and I think if we build it, I think people will come.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much for your presentation. Walt, do you have any comments?
A couple. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd just like to reiterate what Ms. Castro said, that we do have a huge amount of events here that happen, public events that happen right here on the site and around here. We need to be sure we keep that in mind. It's paramount. And since we have this COVID thing going on that we're just getting out of, I'm wondering, are you going to readdress the community and re-ask them again what their priorities would be?
In the survey that's going out soon, there are questions related to COVID and post-COVID life.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. Looking forward to the information.
Thank you.
Okay. Now we have a whole bunch of public announcements. First, I want to issue another reminder that this year's Fireworks Spectacular event will be a one-day event held on Saturday, June 26th. The event is from 3 p.m. to 10 p.m. at Ayala Park, located at 14225 Central Avenue, and will feature retail and information booths, food trucks, family games, the band Time Bomb, a recognition and salute to our nation's military, and of course, we're going to end the night with an outstanding fireworks show beginning at 9 p.m. For more questions, please contact the Community Services Department at 909-334-3258 or visit www.cityofchino.org/FS. Next, I want to invite families to join us for Healthy Family Day this Saturday, June 5th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Ayala Park in the grass area between the YMCA and the Ayala Park Operations Center, located at 5575 Edison Avenue. This event is being held in collaboration with the Chino Valley YMCA and will offer entertainment, family fun competitions, pool relay races, health, fitness, and nutritional information, and water and environmental information. For more information, please call the Community Services Department at 909-334-3258 or visit www.cityofchino.org/healthychino. Additionally, I'd like to invite everyone to this year's Chino Summer Nights featuring family-friendly movies happening most Fridays, beginning on Friday, June 11th. As many of you are aware, last year we did not have the opportunity to gather for Chino Summer Nights because of the pandemic. As we continue to bring back many of our special events, please join us on the City Hall lawn at 6:30 p.m. to enjoy great food, family fun activities, and retail booths free of charge. The first movie of the series is Jumanji, The Next Level. Other movies that will be shown during this year's series are Sonic the Hedgehog, Adventures of Rufus the Fantastic Pet, The Lion King 2019, Tom and Jerry, and Raya the Last Dragon. Movie will begin at dusk, so I invite you to bring your lawn chairs and blankets early to ensure you have a great view. For more questions, please contact the Community Services Department at 909-334-3258 or visit www.cityofchino.org/movies. Next, for anyone wishing to get involved in a city commission, the city clerk's office is accepting applications for vacancies on both our Community Services Commission and Planning Commission. The deadline to apply is this Friday, June 4th at 5:30 p.m. Please note that you must be a Chino resident to apply. For more information, contact the city clerk's office at 909-334-3306 or visit www.cityofchino.org/commissions. Next, I want to inform residents that we are establishing a new schedule for City of Chino Preserve office hours so as to not conflict with other previously scheduled community meetings. Please note that starting in July, office hours will be held every other month on the second Thursday of the month from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. at the Preserve Community Center located at 15800 Main Street. I invite residents to join us on July 8th at 5:30 p.m. as this is a great opportunity for the community to engage with city staff. Finally, we will be adjourning tonight's meeting in memory of Chino former resident Albert Goyeneche, San Bernardino County Superior Court Judge Ben Kaioshima, and City of Eastvale Councilmember Ike Bootsma. On May 7th, Michael Michel Goyeneche passed away peacefully at home in Bakersfield. In 1962, at 16 years old, Albert immigrated from France to the United States with his brother to work at a cattle and sheep ranch in Utah. A year later, in 1963, Albert moved and settled in Chino. During his time in Chino, Albert worked as a milker, a calf buyer, and sometimes as a bartender at Central Basco. There, he met his wife of 50 years, Gracie, and the two married in 1971. In 1973, they purchased her father's dairy and began a long, respectable, and passionate dairy career. Albert was a founding member of the Chino Bass Club and served on several boards, including the Chino Fair Board. He will be missed, and our prayers go out to his wife, Gracie, and the Goyeneche family during this very difficult time. We've lost three very important gentlemen that were very, very involved in the agricultural world and were very, very supportive of the 4-H and FFA programs. Albert was one of them, Albert Goyeneche, Harold Tillema, and J.B. Aguirre. They're really going to be missed by the kids that are in those programs. Last month, retired Judge Ben T. Kaioshima passed away. Judge Kaioshima served as the Superior Court of San Bernardino County for 32 years. He was appointed by Governor Brown in 1980, served as presiding judge of the Superior Court from 1989 to 1991, and held many other leadership positions, including supervising criminal judge and supervising civil and assistant presiding judge. Although he retired in 2000, he continued to serve the court as an assigned judge until December 2012. Judge Kaioshima was a veteran of the Korean War, having served in the United States Army, earning the rank of Sergeant First Class, and was awarded the Combat Infantryman's Badge. Judge Kaioshima will be missed, and our prayers do go out to his wife, Reggie, and his family. I'd also like to extend our condolences to the City of Eastvale, who recently lost Councilmember Ike Bootsma on May 14th, 2021. Ike was the third of 9 children to Dutch parents. Ike was recently elected to the Eastvale City Council in November 2020. Previously, he served on the Eastvale City Council from 2010 through 2016, along with 4 terms as mayor from 2013 to 2016. In 1938, Ike's family immigrated and settled in the Chino Valley to start a dairy. From 1975 to 2007, Ike operated a calf ranch in the city of Eastvale, where he would live for over 46 years. Councilmember Bootsma will be missed, and our prayers also go out to his wife, Squeaker, and the Bootsma family. Next on our agenda is public communication. This is the time and the place for the general public to address the council on items that do not appear elsewhere on the agenda. My first written request to speak is from Chaplain Keith Roby. He's going to lead us in a prayer, and I'd like to invite all those who would like to participate to please stand.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this beautiful day and for all your blessings. As we gather tonight, we ask that you would be in our midst and help us to make decisions that would honor you. We pray that you would continue to protect and watch over our city. We pray for our first responders, that you would continue to protect them, give them wisdom and strength. We pray for those that are sick or injured, and for those that have lost loved ones, give them strength, comfort, and healing. We thank you, Lord, for the blessing of those that we recognize tonight, for their dedication, leadership, and service. And we pray for our city council, that you would give them the wisdom to continue to use the resources you have provided wisely. Give them unity of thought that they may continue to enhance and grow our city for the good of all those that have placed their trust and confidence in their leadership. We pray this in your precious name. Amen.
Thank you, Keith. Okay, that's the only written request I have to speak under public comment. Is there anyone who would like to address the council on any items that are not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to the consent calendar. And as noted by our city manager, item number 15 is now included in the consent calendar. I would entertain a motion. Okay, there's a motion from Councilmember Lucio, second from Councilmember Flores. Okay, and consent calendar passes unanimously. Okay. Oops, something's out of order here. Hang on just a second. Oh, I seem to be, oh, there, okay. Next on the agenda is public hearings. Prior to a vote of the council, any member of the audience will have the opportunity to address the council on an item listed under public hearings. Council requests, but it's not required that you state your name and address prior to making any remarks. Item number 13, annexation to Landscape and Lighting District 2002-1, which is also Zone 78, for site approval PL 17-0118, Canyon Ridge Hospital Incorporated. This item is to approve a resolution number 2021-033, ordering the annexation of site approval PL 17-0118 into the Landscape and Lighting District number 2002-1. Annexation in zone number 78 with Canyon Ridge Hospital Incorporated for the project located at 5353 G Street. I'd like to declare the public hearing open and ask for a staff report from our city engineer, Chris Magdoscu.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. Good evening tonight. In May of 2018, the Planning Commission approved SCUP PL 17-0115 and site approval PL 17-0118 for the expansion of the existing Canyon Ridge Hospital at G Street and Central Avenue. And in April of this year, you approved resolution number 2021-022, ordering the preparation of the engineer's report as a part of the two-step annexation process, tonight being that second step. Why are you seeing this item? Typical conditions of approval on development require the annexation into a lighting maintenance district. This project is unique. It had 7 existing lights that are actually going to be incorporated into LMD, which will reduce the general fund expenditures on electrical costs. 3 existing lights on Central and 4 on G Street. The estimated assessment is approximately $501 per year, which will be adjusted based on actual costs for maintenance and energy, including CPI adjustments. All the site work has been completed on the site. This is a part of just the conditions of approval being satisfied. We're working through the punch list and off-site improvements for acceptance later on in the year. But with that, staff recommends approving resolution number 2021-033, ordering the annexation of site approval PL 17-0118 into LLMD District 2002-1, also known as Annexation Zone number 78. That concludes my staff report for public hearing. I'm prepared to take any questions.
Thank you, Chris. Do any council members have questions? No? Are there any members of the public that have any questions? Okay, seeing none, then we will close the public hearing, and I will entertain a motion for approval. Motion from Councilmember Flores, second from Mayor Pro Tem Lucio. Please vote. The item passes unanimously.
Thank
you, Chris. Next on the agenda is item number 14, Majestic Chino Heritage. This item is certification of Majestic Chino Heritage Environmental Impact Report, adoption of PL 18-0090 General Plan Amendment, and introduction of ordinance number 2021-008, PL 18-0091 Zone Change. I'd like to declare the public hearing open. I'd like to ask for a staff report from our Director of Development Services, Mr. Nick Ligori.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. The item before us tonight, and loading PowerPoint, okay, very good, is the project that we call the Majestic Chino Majestic Chino Heritage, sorry. It includes certification of environmental impact report, adoption of a general plan amendment, introduction of an ordinance for a zone change, as well as approval of a memorandum of understanding with the Orange County Flood Control District. The location of the project is shown on your screen. So it's at the southeast corner of Bickmore Avenue and Mountain Avenue. This is in the area that we refer to as Sub-Area 1 of the Chino Sphere of Influence. It was annexed into the city in 1998. The general plan amendment proposed for the site, if I could have the next slide, please. Currently, the designation for the area is ag, and this is because back in 1998, the Orange County Flood Control District was working with the Army Corps, and they still are, on the raising of the Prado Dam to allow for the inundation line to move from 556 feet elevation above sea level to 566 feet. There were a bunch of properties that were designated in between these areas, and they were designated for a transition zone. Whereas if the property owner could elevate the property to bring it out of the floodplain, it would be eligible for development. When the general plan was updated in 2010, staff, because it had been some years since this project, the Prado Main Stem project, had been going on, staff designated all of the properties that were owned by the public agency in this ag designation, believing that they would remain because they are owned by the public agency, and that was done by council. With the cooperation of Majestic, Orange County Flood Control District is proposing to elevate this area out of the floodplain, importing dirt from several different areas, offsetting, balancing the volume capacity of the flood basin. And so therefore the application would be proposed to change the agricultural zoning to general industrial, which would be in keeping with the other developed properties in the area. There are several properties that have been developed over the past 20 years in this area that have transitioned from agriculture to general industrial through the movement of dirt and the lifting up of these properties out of the basin. Excuse me. Next slide, please, Alex. So the goals achieved by this are consistent with our general plan. Our general plan has several goals for allowing for the economic development of the city, new industrial uses, making sure that they are located in areas that are appropriate, so generally surrounded by industrial areas, and further strengthening our economy as well as enhancing our infrastructure. So on May 17th, the Planning Commission reviewed and recommended approval of the project to the City Council. You can see on the site plan, it would be approximately 2 million square feet of industrial and 2 buildings. Part of the project includes improvements, full improvements to the adjacent rights-of-way and some off-site improvements to complete those streets, Bickmore and Mountain Avenue as well. The applicant will go into more detail on the design, but here's a rendering of what the buildings will look like. The architecture does reflect some of the cultural heritage in the area, specifically the the milking barns and other things from Chino's past. As well, there's proposed a landscape monument that would have some interpretive signs, as well as potentially more cow statuary that will evoke the dairy heritage and agricultural heritage of the community. To raise the site out of the floodplain, there are several borrow sites. These are covered in the environmental analysis, where some dirt will be removed from these lower lying areas and moved to the development site to make sure that the basin can maintain its capacity. And this is consistent with both Army Corps, the Army Corps and Orange County requirements for the Prado Basin. Although the hauling and everything will be approved for permits through the city to make sure that it works and doesn't unnecessarily conflict with other operations. In addition to these items, the applicant is providing for some additional benefits to the city from this project, including the payment of $10.4 million in additional monies. So this is on top of the $8 million approximately that they will be paying in development impact fees, as well as additional in fair share contributions for traffic improvements. This project would pay an additional $10.4 million for roadway improvements in the preserve area. Also, 95 acres of open space mitigation in the form of a long-term land lease will be provided the city for specific parcels. This would be up to 95 acres, so if there's not enough land or desirable land to equal the 95 acres, there would be a per acre fee that would be paid to the city. In addition, before you tonight is a memorandum of understanding with the Orange County Flood Control District. This will allow at a future time for the city to purchase right-of-way as well as temporary construction easements at a pre-negotiated rate that are adjacent to flood control owned properties in the southern part of the city. The Orange County Flood Control District owns quite a bit of property along the southern edge of the city, and for the city to build out its ultimate roadway configurations, we need rights of way from Orange County. And so this will set a pre-negotiated rate and allow us to purchase those at one time. Additionally, there will be temporary construction easements that will be obtained to allow us to build these roads in the future. And there's also an agreement for the acquisition of fill dirt, in one case in purchase, and in other case, no purchase necessary for fill dirt that will help us raise certain roadways out of the flood basin and offset the volume capacity so we can complete major projects like Hellman Avenue, Chino Corona Road, Pine Avenue, and Mill Creek and Cucamonga, which are all roads that would lie in the flood basin that need to be raised up. As part of the environmental impact report for the project, there is a statement of overriding considerations that has been prepared in 3 categories: air quality, noise, and transportation. For the air quality, Chino is in the South Coast Air Quality Basin. It's a non-attainment area for federal standards, and so any development, even if we can mitigate it on the local level, which we have through the mitigation measures in this EIR, we cannot mitigate regional impacts, and so therefore that compels us to adopt a statement of overriding considerations. For noise, it's the construction noise. So this is noise that can't be mitigated to less than significant level, but it's only temporary noise for the construction, during the construction time period. And then for transportation, while we have fair share offset fees that would go to adjacent agencies like Eastvale, Chino Hills, Ontario, State of California, to offset impacts to intersections within these agencies' purview, we cannot control the timing that these agencies make those improvements. So if an improvement is required by the opening day to an intersection that's in the city of Ontario, even if we have a cost-sharing agreement with Ontario and they have the money, we can't make the Ontario City Council budget for that improvement. We can't make them make that improvement by a certain time frame. And because the City of Chino cannot do that, we're proposing to adopt a statement of overriding considerations just to be safe. But we do have language in the mitigation measures to make sure that those payments are used by those agencies for the defined purpose. So in closing, I want to note that staff has been working on this project with the applicant for about 3 years. I'm standing before you giving you the high-level overview, but I'd like to acknowledge our senior planner, Andrea Gilbert, and our associate engineer, Natalie Avila, who have done the bulk of the work underpinning this very large report you have in front of you. And staff recommends that the City Council take the actions as noted in the recommendation of the staff report. And that concludes my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions the council has.
Thank you, Nick. Any council member have questions of Nick? Yes, Walt.
I just have one, Nick. What the new elevation of the proposed project will be same as Viceres Regis on the corner of Euclid and Pine?
So the form is more similar to the Majestic Chino Gateway at Kimball and Euclid.
I'm sorry, I meant elevation above sea level.
Oh, the elevation above sea level. Okay, I'm thinking building elevation. Elevation, yes. So per the city's floodplain management ordinance, the finished floor of the building has to be 1 foot above the inundation line. So the finished floor of the building will be at least 567 feet above sea level. Now this 566-foot line, this is the ultimate, so it's currently not enforced because while the dam is raised, the spillway has not been raised because Orange County has not yet acquired all of the potentially inundated properties. But this is a 0.02% flood chance, so it's a 233-year flood. So the plan is this is for a cataclysmic type event. The ultimate backup would be to the 566-foot line. These buildings are required to have the finished floor 1 foot above that.
Thank you.
And Nick, just so that the community is aware, when you talk about the Orange County right-of-ways that they're going to allow us to obtain, those are the ones that are along Pine Avenue, which would expand the street to be able to open it up to the ultimate eventually so that the residents would be able to flow in and out of their homes easier.
Absolutely. The acquisition of right-of-way is very significant because without that, the city cannot widen Pine Avenue or Hellman Avenue to their ultimate configurations. And so that's clearly a benefit that will help all preserve residents.
And this would also include the raising of Pine Avenue at Euclid, correct?
So that, yes, that is a separate project. That is not under this project. The city is underway with that project in the design, and we're preparing a separate environmental for that project. The MOU would essentially allow the city to work with Orange County Flood Control to purchase the right-of-way as well as obtain fill dirt so that that project can ultimately be built.
Okay. Along the lines of what Walt was asking, I'm curious. The dig areas where the dirt's going to come from to raise this building said it was in number 1, 3, 4, and 5, which is on the east side of Euclid. This building's on the west side of Euclid. So when they look at the whole floodplain, I know they look at the whole thing, but Euclid really is a barrier. What happens, you dig down on the east side, what happens to the west side when you're building up? I guess it's just going to flood Euclid, right? Until Caltrans finally fix it?
Well, the flood contour runs perpendicular to Euclid right around Pine Avenue. So as you get, if you can picture, because you've all driven through there, as you picture, if you're going north on Euclid and you're approaching Pine Avenue and you look to your left and you see the Cirrus Regis buildings and you see they're somewhat elevated, maybe 7-8 feet. Well, so knowing that the finished floor of that first building is at 567, that's where the flood contour. So you can imagine that currently that intersection is below the 566 on both sides.
Right.
Now, the Army Corps requires a pretty complicated volume offset calculation where you have to move dirt from one elevation to a corresponding elevation in a different area, so that way other properties don't accidentally get flooded by moving too much dirt around. So all of this work as proposed has already been approved by the Army Corps in concept. They're waiting for the city to take action on the project. But the intent is that you don't want to change the contour lines too much and then cause flooding in an area that wasn't previously going to flood.
No,
So
I
that's why
understand that.
They
It just
require
seems-
that volume offset calculation.
I understand. It just seems like with Euclid being kind of a barrier, that taking dirt away from one side, you'd still get a change on this side. Do you know what I mean? Because it's not just an even bowl, so to speak. I just am curious how they figure that out.
They figure it out by looking at the elevation where the dirt is taken from and placing it at a similar line and corresponding. So that way you can't just mitigate it by digging a deep hole, right? You have to gently change the contours. And this is where I'm really getting out of my wheelhouse. I can describe it in concept, but the engineers are the ones who are the experts on that. But they have to look at a foot for foot level.
I
guess
get
is the
that,
best.
Nick. I get it.
Yeah.
It just seems to me that that barrier of Euclid Avenue would cause some kind of issues, you know? what-
Mayor,
I
but you're correct. I mean, when you go south of Pine, the water does go over Euclid Avenue
Yeah.
until one
Yeah.
day Euclid is either bridged. That'll continue to happen, so it shouldn't change.
Yeah, it's not necessarily Euclid doesn't really become a north-south barrier once you're south of Pine Avenue. The floodplain kind of broadens out in that
Are we
area.
working at all with Caltrans on someday improving Euclid so that it doesn't flood? Or have they just kind of written us off?
I'd have to defer to Amr on that question because I'm not sure. The only thing that I know was that the project was examined. It would essentially be a causeway from the 71 to Pine Avenue, and it would be a giant project, giant public works project.
The city hasn't approached Caltrans as it relates to Euclid, except for the fencing that has been placed up there.
The emergency gates.
The emergency gates, but our priority's been focusing on Pine Avenue as the
I
alternative
understand.
route.
Okay, if there's no other questions from council members, then I'm going to call on Majestic Realty.
I
Do you
just
a
have,
question?
I know it's talking about 95 acres of land, and then if we don't find 95 acres of land, they'll pay a certain price per acre. Is there land that you've got your eye on that would equal up to about 95 acres of open space?
So right now, we've identified approximately 79 acres that would be of value to the community to have for recreational and open space uses. And so what we're looking at right now is to get the lease on 79 acres and then have the remainder paid in fee,
And
up
do you
to
have,
95.
I mean, offhand, do you know exactly where that land is located?
Generally in the southern part of the preserve area, south of Chino Corona Road, and then some adjacent to the Yorba Slaughter Adobe off of Pomona Rincon Road.
Okay.
Okay, so I'd like to invite a presentation from Majestic Realty.
Had a tough time getting up with this on my lap.
Well, you should see the books we read.
Great. Mayor Ulloa, Mayor Pro Tem Lucio, members of the City Council, staff, thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. My name is Ed Conjoint. I'm Senior Vice President with Majestic Realty, and appreciate you taking the time to consider this project. I wanted to start off by thanking staff in particular. Led by Matt Ballantyne, the staff has worked, as Nick said, for a very long time on this. They've been ardent advocates for the city's interests and have been very successful, I think, in resulting in a project that'll do very many positive things for the city. And so just to run through a few of them. First of all, a little background on Majestic, headquartered down the 60 freeway, just on the other side of the hill here. We've been developing in Chino since the 1980s, developed the Chino Spectrum Marketplace where the Target is, and all of the Majestic Chino Spectrum business parks with the nicely landscaped corner monuments. We're a portfolio developer, which means we build and hold so we have a long-term outlook. Because of that, we want the communities where we are to succeed. So we're very much engaged in the communities, both through our employees who live here getting involved, but also through donations and sponsorships. It's been a little tough over the course of the past year with the pandemic, but we're looking at getting reinvigorated and always looking for ideas to get engaged in the city. This is a graphic that's just sort of to amplify on what Nick was talking about. Back in 1998, on the left-hand side, when Sub-Area 1, south of Kimball and west of Euclid, was annexed into the city, all of the private acres, 320 private acres, including the property we're talking about, it was privately held at the time, were zoned agricultural transitional. Again, contemplated to be transitioned to industrial if they were able to be lifted up. In 2010, when the city did its regular comprehensive land use update, so happened that Orange County had purchased the properties in the intervening years, and the city looked at it and said, oh, it's publicly held now, let's change the designation now to open space and agricultural. And so that's why we find ourselves today with that zoning and general plan use rather than the original Ag T, as Nick pointed out. In any case, on the right-hand side, you see it to the north and to the east. That transitional designation has been fulfilled in all of those other properties, and they've all been developed out with similar type of product. We think if there's any place you're going to put these types of facilities, this is it. You're right on city truck routes. You're not far from state truck routes, not far from what ultimately will be a Pine Avenue interchange rather to the 71. So it's also not near any residence or neighborhood. So we think, one of the best, if possible, locations for this type of facility. And there are a lot of mitigations that we're going to be providing. While this is designated as open space, it's a vacant lot with a fence around it. I mean, no bones about that. But as Nick said, we are going to be paying those open space mitigations fees. Will add up to $1 million. Right now, the conditions say we're paying those up front, or we'll have to pay them unless this other property interest acquisition. And I know some of the property is, in fact, right in front of the Yorba Slaughter Adobe, right between that facility and the 71. So great visibility there for any type of future use that the city may desire. There's a lot of stormwater improvements, a lot of infrastructure we'll be building, but at the bottom is really the most significant benefits that we're going to be making, and it's really monetary contributions. So the diff alone will be about $8 million. And again, as a publicly held piece of property, this property was not included in the Nexus study on which the diff was calculated, right? You guys look at all the improvements that need to be done. You divide it by the privately held properties yet to be developed. Well, this wasn't private. So yet again, this is sort of found money, if you will, in terms of the $8 million diff. On top of that, in addition to the diff, is going to be the $10.4 million that Nick talked about. Where all of that Orange County Flood Control District right-of-way is going to be acquired as part of this. In fact, the project is subsidizing some of that. There was a little bit of gap between Orange County felt it was worth and what the city felt it was worth. The project's picking up the difference. Same with the borrowed dirt that the city needs. And of course, we're paying school fees. There'll be a number of green sustainability features. I just wanted to point out on the bottom here, those aren't mock-ups. That's actually one of our Majestic buildings right up the street up Mountain, where our tenant NFI is implementing all-electric semi-trucks in partnership with Volvo. And Volvo owns Mack trucks, so these aren't folks who are new to the big rig industry. They've got chargers going in for the big rigs, forklifts, yard handlers, and going to be using these trucks. And that's happening right now, right up the street. In terms of the aesthetic elements, the staff, again, it was the staff putting the challenge to us, and hopefully I think we rose to the occasion, but in DRC, they put two conditions. One was come up with some architecturally distinctive elements to the prominent Mountain Avenue frontage of these properties. And number two, provide a little diversity between the two different buildings so they're not cookie cutter the same. So the pictures you see here are one of the charrettes we've had with our architects where we had pictures we've taken of buildings in the area, not just in Chino, but the greater region, had some brochures, other examples. And after a while, you start looking at all these pictures and, more glass, more steel, more, articulation. Ooh, what does the city want? And one of our architects said, well, what you really want to think about is something called contextualism, which is, I got to read this, I'm not an architect, an architectural vernacular that recognizes the context of the site and is meaningful to the heritage of the community. So the building isn't just glass for glass sake or articulation for variety of shape, but something that's meaningful. So we thought about that, and we thought, well, what's meaningful to this sense of place, to this community? And certainly, of course, we thought of dairy farming and the dairy farming heritage in the Chino Valley. But then we also looked at this property in particular, and while it's vacant today on the left-hand side, in the past, as this image is 2003, there were 3 dairies that were on this property. Again, privately held when it was annexed in 1998. 2003, you still had dairies operating on the property. So through the magic of Google Street View, you're able to go back in time and see what, in fact, the buildings looked like that were on this property. And this is the most prominent corner, the northwest corner of the site, which is the southeast corner of Bickmore and Mountain. And there was a milking barn with the architecture you see here. Looked kind of distinctive. Seemed familiar. We've seen them around. And sure enough, through the one on the right-hand side is actual building that stands today, I think maybe the last one in the city of Chino standing, on the east side of Euclid Avenue, south of Kimball. The others are just images we found on the internet, but they all had this very similar distinctive architecture. And so talking with one of our architects, I said, is that Art Deco? Is it, it kind of looks distinctive. And he looked at it and he said, well, no, that's not Art Deco. That's something called streamline moderne. I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce it, but it's an architectural style that started in the 30s and 40s and was born of kind of the high tech of its day, and it was associated with the hope of kind of the post-war victory and an exciting dynamic future. And you see it got implemented in not just buildings, but planes and trains and furniture and everything. The sense of movement and excitement and streamlining. And sure enough, you can go on the internet and look, and there's plenty of examples of these buildings. And they all have very similar elements as that milking barn, sort of a protruding entrance, if you will, curved walls, glass block, or a uniform, rigid structure, and then horizontal lines, again, that speed. And so what we did was we thought, well, is this legit? And you see in the lower left, one of these buildings in the backdrop of the Huell Hauser episode on Chino. And there's Al McCombs in the upper right and Phyllis of the Historical Society. And we thought, well, it must be legitimate if it was on a Huell Hauser episode. So what we did was we ultimately took the imagery on the left here of one of these milking barns and interpreted it with a modern take into the most prominent, the northern of the 2 buildings. So if you see the protruding entrance with the curved walls, same thing here. If you see the uniform grid of the glass blocks is echoed in the uniform grid of the glass mullions in our windows here. The glass blocks around the entrance, we actually have glass blocks around our entrance down here, you can see. And even these little squares up here, which are actually vents in the milking barn are glass blocks up here to replicate a similar type of feel. So same color palette, really, again, paying homage to this architecture. You know, these buildings could have been 4 flat walls and a flat roof. But this architecture that was prevalent throughout the country at this time in history was implemented here in these very utilitarian buildings. And we were excited about that. We thought, well, isn't that interesting? So it's going to be a little bit more expensive, but we think it's a right way of paying tribute to the heritage of the city of Chino. And a lot of these elements are continued on in the screen wall. We have glass blocks embedded in the screen wall, same color palette. And then if you look at it again, that prominent corner where the old milking barn used to be, we've got, as Nick mentioned, a couple interpretive displays here. One alternate example was to put a cow. Now, we know that there are a number of bronze cows in other developments in the city. We've yet to see a bronze cow actually in a dairy here. We've seen a bunch of black and white cows, but that's up to you folks. There was a little bit of debate on the Planning Commission of which type of cow, or if any cows at all, but we're happy to do whatever. We will show you an example, though, of some interpretive displays we did up in Ontario. So this is a former Sunkist facility that we redeveloped. We relocated and refurbished the old Sunkist water tower, and then planted some citrus plants and installed these interpretive displays, which their historical society gave us the material for. One is on the facility itself in the tower, and the other is on the citrus industry in general, which was very important up there. This is building 2, similar but yet different. Again, have the buildings be different. So you see the same sort of uniform grid pattern of the glass window mullions, again reflecting that grid pattern of the glass blocks in the old milking barn, but yet no curved walls. These are all angular and more contemporary. So we like to think we rose to the occasion, that the DRC challenged us and came up with 2 buildings that were distinctive yet different. And with regard to the first building, I don't think you're going to find another building like it in Chino, Southern California, anywhere. It's really unique, and again, we're excited about it because when someone stands on this corner and looks at that building, they may notice it looks a little different, but when they walk up to those interpretive displays, they're going to know why it looks a little different, and they're going to know what the purpose of the cow was and what the heritage and history of this community was all about. So as members of the community for decades now, we're happy to implement this program and hope you share our excitement. Happy to answer any questions.
I think you need cows. Black and white, brown and white, and all brown.
That's right.
They had Holsteins, Jerseys, and Guernseys.
That's right.
You know. Any comments or questions of Ed? Okay. Well, I know the brochure that you provided us is just beautiful, and I intend to keep it. And I love the history in it and the pictures, and it is extremely nice that you're trying to hang on to a little bit of that heritage. I think it's very important to people who have lived here multiple generations. And so I thank you for that. And yeah, it's been a long time. It's been, what, 4 years? 3-4 years working on this project. It's been a while, you know. So thank you. Okay, let's see. Okay, no questions from the council. All right. Then it's time for public input, and I have several written requests to speak.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Jason Baez? Is that, yeah, come on up, please.
Thank you so much, Honorable Council, for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Jason Baez, and I'm a member of Labor's International Union of North America, and I fully support this project. Many of us construction workers have been getting bombarded with phone calls from people from all different types of trades, all different types of occupations who lost their jobs during the pandemic, and they're desperate to pay their bills and take care of their families. And it's hard for us to tell them, you know, we're just trying to survive ourselves. So this project would be a great blessing to the community. And I have to say, in all honesty, I really, really like how they've added so much of our heritage into those buildings. It's really cool. And if I was to be totally honest, I'd say, I guess that's the only part of the session I really enjoy. But thank you so much for giving me the chance to speak. Thank you.
Welcome. Next is Thomas Ruiz.
Good evening, Mayor. My name is Thomas Ruiz. I'm a representative for the Laborers International Union, Local 783, located in the city of San Bernardino. We represent over 1,700 men and women that work in the construction industry in San Bernardino County, Inyo, and Mono counties. The Laborers Union is a skilled construction trade union where our members work on major infrastructure projects like roads, highways, bridges, water treatment facilities, buildings, schools, and in the energy sector like nuclear, wind, solar. But last but not least, we build industrial warehouse projects. And just like the ones proposed before you tonight, and we're proud to be here tonight to fully support the Majestic Realty project. Lyona is a strong supporter of developments that provide jobs with quality wages, health benefits, including vacation, pay, retirement, and the opportunity to advance. Our members are skilled, experienced, hardworking men and women, ready to build their communities' infrastructure with partners like Majestic. Majestic has worked proactively with Labor's Local 783 to ensure that this project provides those benefits to local residents. Their commitment also will ensure that workers living in and around the city will have the opportunity to obtain these construction jobs. This development will improve local infrastructure, bring physical benefits and jobs to the city of Chino. We build a lot of these projects and throughout Southern California, and been very fortunate enough to have these type of developments, especially during last year, during the pandemic when a lot of things were shut down. And it has been partners like Majestic Realty that have been able to provide good, steady work for men and women of our trade to put food on their table. So with that being said, we fully support this project, and we respectfully ask that you consider this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Last written request, the last name is a bit difficult. It's Stephen, is it Peacorn? Peepcorn, okay. I can see the corn part, but not the first part.
Thank you for letting me speak, Council. Good evening. My name is Stephen Peepcorn, and I'm with the Golden State Environmental Justice Alliance. We submitted a comment letter to the draft environmental impact report. Our letter, with analysis of SWAPE, Soil, Water, Air Protection Enterprise, identified several deficiencies with the DEIR. We have further submitted a written rebuttal to the response to our comments, as the time limit on the public comment during this meeting is a little insufficient to go into it. The city's elected and appointed officials have the obligation to protect the citizens of this city from environmental and social injustice, to protect the environment we all share and live in, and to make environmentally responsible development decisions. We stand by our comment letter and believe the DEIR is flawed and must be redrafted and recirculated for public review. In closing, we call on this council to be a leader on the aforementioned issues and be the first line of defense for our citizenry and environment. Only by working together can we continue to be excellent stewards of our environment, outstanding stewards to our citizens and each other. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Are there any other members of the public that would like to address the council on this issue? Okay, seeing none, then we will close the public hearing. Any further council member comments? Well?
No, I don't have comments.
Do you have any comments? Okay, then I would call for a motion and a second to approve this project. Okay, there's a motion from Councilman Flores, second from Mayor Pro Tem Lucio. And the project does pass unanimously. I believe our staff has addressed the environmental issues, okay? So,
Madam Mayor?
oh, yes.
Yes,
have
if I
to
may
ask
read
you
the
to-
title of the ordinance.
Sorry, Fred, I wasn't
Thank you.
supposed to say the vote yet.
That's okay. This will be part of the record. The city council considered ordinance number 2021-008 entitled An Ordinance of the City Council of the City of Chino, California, approving zone change PL 18-0091, amending ordinance number 2010-006, which established the zoning map by placing the property generally located at the southeast corner of Mountain Avenue and Bickmore Avenue into the M2 General Industrial Zone. And that action occurred by reading title only and waiving further reading. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, and the item did pass unanimously. And I'm looking forward to seeing the design of cows. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Okay, item number 15 was moved to the consent calendar under new business. Item number 16, professional services agreement, pavement management system. This item is to award a professional services agreement in the amount of $139,729 to IMS Infrastructure Management Services, LLC, Tempe, Arizona, for the pavement management system software project, and authorize expenditures for up to $13,900 for project contingencies for a total contract not to exceed of $153,629. Our staff report will be provided by our city engineer, Chris Magdascu.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I'm pleased to bring this to you. I have a passion for pavement for some reason. I've designed pavements, and it was exciting to have this come before you tonight and have that a part of our asset management. So I'll keep it real simple. There's two parts, just the process we did to get here tonight. I'm just going to do a quick little presentation on what pavement management is, just to educate you all that don't know everything about it, but I know you know enough about it because you drive a car and people have the knowledge of what a street pavement looks like, but I want to give you a little bit more of a technical background. First, we followed our purchasing guidelines, state and local laws, solicited RFPs last fall. 4 came in that are summarized in your staff report. We identified a funding source, which is our SB1 funding, which has been programmed through the Public Works Miscellaneous Classification, which is the MS212 project identified in your staff report. This is going to be unique because this will be your straight pavement management system development, but there's going to be an accessibility component that I thought would be really beneficial to the city, being that we want to be as accessible as possible. And what ends up happening is you come up with the design and then we forget things. This will help us get that data, and I'll get to that. So let me talk quickly what a pavement condition index, or a PCI, means. Before you is on the left is a 0 to 100, 100 being really good, and then 0 being very poor. You want to have a pavement condition index range between 70 and 80. Some cities are really bold and they like to have it as high as 80. There's a lot of money involved in keeping it at 80. 70 is pretty good. That's a good number to be at. So that's why they refer to that as good. So in that band in there of the 90 to 100, or excuse me, 85 to 100, it's very good with just your surface treatment, so you can just do your normal slurry seal, which is basically just black paint. When you get down into the lower categories of very poor, you're talking about full reconstruction, like El Prado. El Prado had a very poor PCI. That's now been rehabilitated, so you basically have a new street with a 20-year life. That doesn't mean it's going to fall apart in 20 years. It's just that you have a 20 years, you can just kind of gauge it. Typical examples of pavement distress is us engineers use these words all the time: raveling, bleeding, longitudinal cracking. It's just different forms of pavement failure, and some streets have multiple versions of this pavement failure. The ones you see the most are what we call alligator cracking, because it looks like the back of an alligator. That's one of the tougher ones to solve. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Sometimes the pavement's falling apart on the surface. It's just a delamination, they call it. So you might scrape down, remove the top, put down a new coat. Sometimes you got to reconstruct the whole street. This system will allow us to get that survey of all our roads to adequately identify the types of treatment that we can do. to get that PCI up high and maintain our roads in good condition, along with the accessibility and the mobility side with the sidewalk and ramp survey. Will package up this as a nice asset management tool for the city. So this is the process in a clockwise motion. Starts on the left of that bubble. And I want to thank IMS and Jim Turek. He's actually going to be on the call. He's our client rep who might have questions from council. He will address those. So I borrowed some of these slides from him. So I want to thank him for that. Saved me that hassle of recreating these good slides that he had. You start in the upper left. What's our objectives? What do we want from our city? And then the policies we have. We have an accessibility policy. We have water master plan, sewer master plan, all these master plan documents that help us put together how we're going to manage our assets. And then you have the money. It was brought up by Mayor Pro Tem Lucio at the budget workshop on, hey, is $2 million enough to go towards our streets? We don't know that yet. I will tell you in my past, $2 million can get you pretty good, but you need to know what your pavement conditions are to address that. So later in the year, we will actually get that number, and that'll allow you to make sound decisions on how to optimize the budget and get your most out of your pavement. As you proceed to the right, how do you understand the condition? The types of equipment they are going to use that set us apart from the others that proposed is the type of vehicles they use with the cameras and LiDAR, radar to adequately survey the widths. So the old days of driving the city and doing the windshield survey, looking out your window, I've done those. They're replaced by more high-tech equipment, which the other proposers didn't have, which set them apart from everybody else. And then the last bubble on the way around the process is your priorities and techniques. So we got to get all that data, put it together, and come to you and say, here's what we think we should do. So our public works staff has adequate knowledge. Our land development staff also knows when we condition a project that you don't have to rebuild a road. It might just be a grind and overlay. We'll have these with us in a toolbox. The biggest thing is, why are we doing this? Well, a lot of cities have a pavement management system. Mayor, you mentioned at the budget workshop that we had one once. I'm not familiar with what it was. What I have educated from staff is it was a highlighter on a map. But we don't want those days are long gone. We can't do that. This also helps us get funding. There's grants and other things out there that allow you to have a pavement management system, and the price is right. My experience, it was $100,000 to develop a program, and that was all through windshield survey. Going a little above and beyond to add accessibility for a few $1,000s more is actually very good for the city, so it's a good bargain. Up on this curve, another curve, basically, again, back to that PCI, pavement quality. You want to be good to excellent. As what happens is, as you fall down that curve, it falls away so fast that if you let pavements deteriorate so bad, you're spending 8 times as much on the project. So that's kind of the decision making, is how much money do we want to spend to get to where? And how much can we hold back on maybe for a year and let maybe a project come through, a water project. Now the pavement will be looked at different because now it's been broken up with a water main project. So this will allow us to be planning that. You want to, again, try to be up in that good to excellent range so you don't get into the costs, but you want to maintain that pavement life a little bit longer. That's just a picture of the equipment they use that'll detect the presence of all the types of pavement distress I identified earlier. So it's that type of methodology that'll help us determine the classification of the distress and how we can get there with the proper funding for the rehabilitation techniques. These are not in order of importance, but I want to just identify a couple. You got to examine the effects of current funding levels, because if there are going to be grants coming in or other projects coming in to rebuild roads, we may be able to set that money aside and do another road. Again, having the inventory will allow us to do that. And then also number 6, pavement management is priority-based, not worst first, for most efficient stewardship of citizen funds. So it'll allow us to be smart about how we spend our money. With that, concludes my presentation. I recommend awarding a professional services agreement to IMS in the amount of $139,729 plus 10%, $13,900 for contingencies. That includes up to 2 one-year extensions under our typical purchasing guidelines, and authorize Matt to sign the documents on behalf of the city. Again, I'm here to take any questions. That concludes my presentation, and then Jim Turek is on the line as well, and I believe we did a sound check earlier, right, Angela? Okay. Thank
Chris,
you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
2 questions, actually. How often will this program be updated? And who's in charge of that update?
Well, they have various ad services in their proposal. We're not, we haven't looked at that yet. We want to get the data and then sit down with them and do a kickoff and say, how often should you do it? Usually when you do one, you have it in your GIS, it's a web-based service. You have it, you could pretty much keep it for several years. We used to do them every 5 years. So it depends on the needs of the council priorities, funding that might change. More streets come in the inventory, we may want to reevaluate that on an annual basis. That's what I would recommend. But we could work that through the process after we kick off with the consultant and ask them for their best and fair estimate of how often they would do it, given the type of program they use.
Well, you mentioned, there are occasions where we cut into streets, which obviously would then change its condition, right?
Yes.
So when that happens, because we're constantly doing things, constantly building and improving, it seems like that should automatically go into this database so that the priority on that street would be reanalyzed.
Yes, absolutely, good point, yes.
But who does that?
We would do that, staff
You would do that?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I misunderstood the question. Yeah, we would do that, but we would have them at our beck and call to talk to them about having, client needs, services come in and add extras. That's what some of the contingencies could add to it. But we have a lot of educated staff here. We're really blessed to have a lot of engineers on staff, and I think we'd be able to handle it internally.
Because it seems to me to be really a quality tool. It has to be a living document.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's going to have to be kept up this time. I know we did have a program years and years ago, and it wasn't kept up, so it ended up gathering dust on the shelf. So I would hate to, this is a lot of money. It would be a wonderful tool to have if we keep it up.
Absolutely. Yeah, we will work on that. I believe that it's the best thing for a city. Because once you have that in place and it's in the GIS, it's all web-based. It's not on some floppy disk that got buried away that you can't use anymore, right? Or a highlighter. You're actually using something that's through the GIS. You can keep on building on that. But it's a key point. With all the water and sewer projects or even storm drain, if the road's 3 inches of asphalt on nothing, it's going to be basically worthless after that project. So it allows Amer's team to scope it really well, but also allows you to say, hey, what do we want best for this street? We would take the recommendation to you. So it starts on between the council priorities and what we feel as professional staff recommending to you. We'll update it as often as we need.
Okay. Questions, comments?
So this software, is it going to focus on just our main artery streets, or is it going to focus on all streets, including residentials?
All streets, including alleys.
Okay.
It does include alleys?
It includes alleys. We have about 10 miles of alleys, but ironically, since the RFP went out and we've gone through this process, we've built a few new alleys. So
Right.
what's going to happen is we'll have to kind of re-up on how we do the alleys, and I'll have to work with Maria and Amer's team to see if there's any more alleys in the future, because they're going to rate it, and now we're going to basically have a great rating, which is good, but allows us to give us a baseline. So I'm thinking about deferring that towards the end of the project and get the arterials and the residential and the collectors done more up front, and then come back and do the alleys near the end. That's my thought.
Okay. Any other questions? No? Yes, Walt.
Chris, do I understand that they have this device mounted on a van and they go over all of our streets, and this device can assess the condition of the roadway?
Yes.
And then they make recommendations to you to, and do they do this once a year or continually throughout the year, or how does that work?
Well, I guess that's a piggyback almost on what the mayor was asking. I'm not sure if we would want to have them go back out every year, but what they'll do is they'll with the wider roads, the arterials, they're going to do 2 passes. I chose 2, one up, one back. Residential, only 1, mainly because of the width of the road, but they can get all the data at one time. That'll be the new baseline. So that baseline will have the inventory. When we come back to you later in the year, this should take several months. We could even get into the weeds on that, on how much more we'd like to do. But I'm gonna let them kick it off. I've never used this type of system before. Ours was more archaic. It was a step below this. It was more windshield based. So I'm gonna learn myself on how this works.
Sounds a lot better than the windshield-based program.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, because you rub your eye and you're supposed to be watching the road, or where you're driving, you're not gonna catch everything. Or if you walk, you need to have the right system. This is what everybody sees every day, the road, and those are the biggest complaints.
Wow, I'm excited about it.
I am too.
Okay, well, then I would entertain a motion for approval, please. Motion from Mayor Pro Tem Lucio, second from Councilman Flores. And the item passes unanimously. Thank you,
Mayor.
Chris.
Thank you.
Okay, our next item, item number 17, professional services agreement, police-specific vehicle equipment installation and maintenance. This is to approve a professional services agreement with 10-8 Retrofit Incorporated, Ontario, California, for the purchase, installation, and maintenance of police-specific vehicle equipment. I ask for a staff report from our Public Services Manager, Dave McAbee.
Good evening, Mayor and members of City Council. The Fleet Division of the Public Works Department is responsible for overseeing the purchase, installation, general repairs, and routine maintenance of police vehicle-specific aftermarket equipment for both existing and new police vehicles. Currently, 10-8 Retrofit of Ontario, California provides the actual installation, maintenance, and repair of this type of equipment for our police fleet. The current contract with 10-8 Retrofit is set to expire on June 30th, 2021. Specifications were prepared and on March 16th, 2021, a request for proposal was released and published on Planet Bids. On April 13th, 2021, the city received one proposal from 10-8 Retrofit of Ontario, California. 10-8 Retrofit provided all the required documentation and is deemed to be a responsive and responsible proposer. Based on the estimates provided in the RFP, staff is requesting council approve a professional services agreement to 10-8 Retrofit in the amount of $183,500 for the retrofit of new police vehicles during fiscal year 2021-22. Staff is also requesting authorization to spend up to $25,000 for general repairs and maintenance of existing police vehicles for a potential total annual agreement amount not to exceed $208,500. And that concludes my report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Dave. Questions of Dave?
What kind of equipment are they retrofitting?
So what they're doing, for the most part, is installing everything for the police department. So the radios, the cages, anything, light bars, anything of that nature, radios. So
You said this is an annual contract. How many cars, new cars per year, is this based on?
this is based on what we have in the current proposed budget for 21-22, which is a total of 12 police vehicles.
So you say this is yearly. Will it be modified
Yes,
every
ma'am.
year depending on?
Yes, depending on what we do for the following budget year for vehicle replacements.
Okay,
or
so it really
additions.
is just a one-year contract? And then possibly come back next year?
Yes.
With a new number?
It establishes unit prices, so if we were to continue it, we're able to utilize the unit prices that they've established for each of these items that are worked on.
Oh, okay.
I see what you're, yes, Mayor. So that way they're locked in and the prices at least are locked in for
The
that
unit
set of
prices.
time. Correct.
Okay, I understand. Any comments, questions? Okay, entertain a motion. Motion from Councilman Flores, second from Mayor Pro Tem Lucio. Item passes unanimously. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is mayor and council reports. See, I attended on Wednesday, May 19th, I attended the mayor's prayer breakfast. Then I met with staff regarding the regional housing needs allocation requirements. After that, I filmed the next mayor's message, which was on water conservation. And then we all attended our fiscal year 21-22 budget workshop. And I do want to compliment staff on their attention to detail. That was a really good workshop. Thursday, May 20th, I attended virtually the Water Facilities Authority Board of Directors and Water Master Advisory Committee. Thursday, the 27th, several of us attended the Ayala Park American Little League 5 and 6 grand opening, along Councilman Flores and Pocock were both there. Saturday, the 28th, along with Councilmember Flores, I attended the groundbreaking for an assisted living facility and 2 medical buildings on Philadelphia across from Chino Town Square Shopping Center. It's going to be a beautiful development. And then yesterday, May 31st, along with Mayor Pro Tem Lucio, Council Members Flores and Pocock. We attended our city's Memorial Day event, which really turned out very nice, was very well attended. Chief Simmons gave an absolutely excellent speech. I was so impressed, Wes. It was very, very well done. And I want to thank Don Avila and our local American Legion members and the Ladies Auxiliary for hosting the event, the Young Marines for raising our flag, Don Antonio Lugo High School student Andrea Salish for singing the national anthem, and Ashley and Alyssa Farrell for signing the national anthem while it was being sung, and then Boy Scout Troop 250, I thought it was 205, might have typed that wrong, for leading the Pledge of Allegiance. I thought it was very well done. The weather was nice, and quite a few people attended. That's all I have. Mayor Pro Tem Lucio, you have item number 18.
I do. It's for my community support contributions. I would ask the approval of my community support contributions. I would like to give $1,000 to the Chino Youth Boxing Foundation. The reason it's $1,000 is they haven't been able to participate at all. They haven't had anybody really in. They just opened up recently. And I want to make sure that we at least fund them so that they can continue to have this program. I know they're going through some difficult times right now, so that was the reason I chose them. Chino's Girls Fast Pitch, same thing. They still had to pay for field fees, and that was the reason why. It's our only girls fast pitch. My daughter played girls fast pitch, and it's a great organization. I just want to make sure they continue to flourish. Chino American Little League and Chino National League are two little leagues. I just want to help them out with their field, with their fees. I know they're doing, they weren't playing baseball. I think they're going to start this year, but they were doing, I think, clinics. So I just want to help them to offset that. Chino Pumas Track Club. My daughter ran for the Chino Pumas. It's a great organization. And then also for the Chino American Youth Soccer Organization, AYSO. I want to support them, as well as Chino United, which is their girls. So the AYSO, basically their travel team that they have. I think it's important for us, especially right now during this pandemic, that a lot of these organizations took a big hit. I think some of them had to initially signed up people to play sports, and then they had to refund all their money back.
Mm-hmm.
So I just, it's one of those things that if I can help them out, it's something I'd like to do. So I really appreciate your support in that, and that's all I have.
Okay, then we would entertain a motion and a second. So it's been motioned by Councilman Flores, seconded by myself, and it has been approved unanimously. Anything more to report?
Yes, on May 19th, I also attended the Mayor's Prayer Breakfast. It was actually a lot more, it was well attended. I think the first one we had in a long time, still had some people, but this one was definitely 2 or 3 times the amount of people that were there. I think it was a great turnout. City manager was there, the chief of police was there, and then a lot of the pastors from throughout our city were there, and they were represented. I think they really went off of that the mayor's prayer breakfast that they had over in Chino Hills, were both Chino and Chino Hills, and I think they were inspired by the keynote speaker there, and they want to reach out a little bit more into the community. I think it was something that resonated with them, with me, and I'm hoping to see some big things coming from our clergy. I also attended the Regional Housing Committee meeting. I was a little disappointed. I know that one of the things when we met with the Chino Valley Unified School District, we told them that when we started looking at sites to start picking for high-density housing, that we'd like their input for them to be there so that we could talk about if we put this type of housing somewhere, where are we going to send the kids? What's going to be the alternatives? What's a better location than another one? At least give them an opportunity to be at the table to give us their input so that we can make wise decisions, because this is ultimately going to affect all our kids. But they didn't show up. Hopefully on the next one that we have, they do show up because I think it's valuable to have their input in there. Also, we had our budget workshop meeting, just like the mayor said. It was very well done by our staff. My hat's off to all the staff. The executive management team, you guys did a great job, and we appreciate the hard work. And on the 24th, I attended a meeting with the city manager. We went over a few things, but one of the things that I want to comment and thank you, there was a house in my district on 11th Street that had some complaints about some construction that was being done there. It was eyesore, a lot of debris left in front of the location. And it came to my attention. I asked the city manager about it. They already had an open case on him from code enforcement. And the city facilitated a bin being dropped off there. So I went by there Monday before the Memorial Day event. Sure enough, they had put up some tarps to block off the unsightliness, but they also had a bin there and they were cleaning up the property. So I really want to thank you for taking care of that. I appreciate it. And again, if anybody within the city of Chino, if you have an issue like that and you want to email me and let me know, and we're really trying to improve the image of Chino. So if there's something out there that really looks bad that we're not aware of or we didn't notice, please let us know and let me know, and we'll definitely try to work to improve that. And then on the 31st, I attended the American Legion Memorial Day service, and it was great. It was awesome to see that we still have one person in the community from World War II that was still there. And it just, the amount of respect that this city pays to their veterans is second to none, and I think that's something that makes our community special. It's a great event. If you've never been, that's something that you should attend. I've always been a big advocate of paying tribute to those that gave up the ultimate sacrifice. And with that, I also want to mention that my heart goes out to the family of Sergeant Dominic Vaca, who was San Bernardino County Sergeant Sheriff. He was killed in the line of duty yesterday at the end of a pursuit. He was ambushed and shot and killed. So my heart goes out to his family, to the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department for their loss, and my prayers are always to everybody that's out there working the field. And that's all I have for today.
Okay. The gentleman that was there yesterday, the elderly gentleman from World War II, was Raul Garnica. And last year for his birthday, the community did a big drive-by for his birthday, which was really, really nice. Okay, Councilman Flores.
Thank you, Mayor. Let's see, May 19th, I attended the budget workshop meeting. May 25th, I met with the waste management representative. May 26th, I attended the Faith in Action discussion prayer meeting. May 28th, I attended the groundbreaking event with Mayor Eunice Ulloa. And yesterday, May 31st, I attended the American Legion Memorial Day service. And that concludes my reports, Mayor Eunice. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Pocock.
Thank you. Well, on May 19th, I attended the 21-22 budget, and that was to me, that was an awesome, intimidating, dominant document. Then May 28th, the baseball opening of the fields 5 and 6 at Ayala Park, and yesterday the memorial program at Community Building, and Don Avila emceed it again for, he's been there as long as that building, I think, emceeing it.
Longer.
And it was nice to see all the young military kids performing. And I'd like to comment a little bit on that Majestic Building, a project, if I could.
Sure.
This city's been working on this for 2 or 3 years now, and for the people that really that haven't got the numbers on it, we have 2.1 million square feet under roof. That equals 47.8 acres under roof on the two buildings. Just phenomenal. And I live on a 7,200 square foot lot. And I could put 289 of my lots inside these two buildings. This is amazing. And
So what are you saying? You want your house moved to that building?
that'd be too much lawn to mow for me. And too much vacuuming.
Too much vacuuming.
And the staff worked diligently on it. Planning Commission did a great job. Matt got us a $10.4 million extra. And thanks Majestic for bringing it to Chino. Yeah.
With cows.
Pardon?
With cows.
Yeah, with cows, with cows, right on the front. And congrats to the CPRS award kids, people. And that concludes my
Okay, thank you, Walt. City Manager Ballantyne.
Thanks, Mayor and Council. The only thing, I just want to reiterate some of the comments the mayor made about the preserve office hours. Again, those that are tuning in late to our meeting, our next preserve office hours will take place on July 8th. And we'll push that out on social media, and we plan on having some extra activities there, which will hopefully spark some interest in more folks coming out. So more to follow on that. So again, that's July 8th, which is the second Thursday of the month. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. City Attorney Galante.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As I informed the Council, one of my other clients, the Orange County Council of Governments, authorized filing a legal action against HCD for what it believes is failing to follow the statute and coming up with the regional housing needs allocation. So they will be pursuing that through our office, and I will keep this council informed on any developments. That's all I have.
Please do. Okay, Chief Wes Simmons.
Thank you, Mayor, and I too just want to reiterate that our prayers are with the Vaca family right now, and just ask the community to pray for that family. I want to share that so far this year, and we've just hit June 1st, 26 law enforcement officers in America have been shot and killed by gunfire. 4 in the state of California, 3 in California in the past month. And sadly, one of our partners at LA County Fire was shot and killed in a fire station today. So we have a problem out there. I love the fact that we have the community support, and I just pray that we continue to have that, and we help our partners around this county and this nation. Thank you.
So tragic, so tragic. Yes, and from the Fire Chief's Department, we have Nathan Cook.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, and staff. I'll be brief. As you're well aware, we're into fire season and things are already burning around us, and so we want to take this opportunity to remind our residents to ensure that they clear all the vegetation and any hazardous conditions that are on their properties that may create to a fire spread. I don't know if you heard or not, but 2 weekends ago off of Roswell in the unincorporated county area, we had a resident that was attempting to clear vegetation with a riding lawnmower, and sparked off a significant fire that destroyed 4 outbuildings, 13 vehicles. A total of 5 acres were burned on 3 different properties. And so the point there is that use common sense when you're clearing vegetation, and do so with some type of water source or fire extinguisher nearby. So again, our condolences to the sergeant and his family, for the Sheriff's Department, as well as our brothers and sisters in the Los Angeles County Fire Department that lost one of their members as well. So thank you for all you're doing. Thank you for your support.
Nathan, I have a question for you. Some properties I've noticed have not obeyed the weed abatement orders. I'm assuming that your department is following up on that?
Yes, ma'am. We have a number of open cases against them, and we're pursuing all legal actions to ensure they come into compliance, and up to and including we will ensure that they comply by hiring a contractor to do the weed abatement ourselves, and then go after them on property liens.
Oh, good.
Yep.
There was a news report the other night, and it said that the soil moisture content is lower than it's been in 122 years.
Since they've been tracking it.
Yeah, so they're saying that, the vegetation is extra dry, the soil is extra dry, and with this year's predicted drought, it's going to get even worse.
It will. So, yep. Anything we can do to work together as a community to ensure that we limit the fire spread, we all have to be in this together.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Okay, with that, we will be adjourning in memory of Albert Goyeneche, Judge Ben T. Kaioshima, and Eastvale Councilmember Ike Bootsma. Our next regular meeting will be held on June 15th, starting at 7 o'clock. We also will be having a housing element site analysis workshop that starts at 5 o'clock on the 15th, and then our regular council meeting beginning at 7. Closed session will be at 6 if necessary, or following the open net session, depending upon the time. So we will see you on June 15th. With that, we are adjourned.